SQL, we have 5 different techniques that we usually use in order to reduce and optimize the complexity of SQL queries. The 5 techniques are subqueries, CTE, view, temporary tables, and CTAS. And now before we do a deep dive into the details for each one, I want first to put the fundamentals of 2 things. First, we have to understand why we need those techniques in the first place. And the second thing, I would like to give you an overview of the database architecture. And this is what we're gonna do now. So now let's start with the first question. Why do we need those techniques in the first place? So now it's story time. Let's go. Normally in projects we have a database and we have a person that is responsible for the database administrator that takes care of the database structure. And now in very simple scenario we're gonna have a user that is writing queries in order to retrieve data from the database. So he or she gonna write an SQL query and then this query gonna be sent to the database where it's gonna execute it and then the database gonna return the results. So at the end our user gonna see the result of the query that he wrote. So this is a very simplified scenario on how we use a database. But my friends, in the real world, things are totally different. Things in real projects get very complicated like this. So for example, you have a financial analyst that is writing a huge block of SQL query that is very complex. And there will be like another user that have different role, like a risk manager, that is as well writing a very complex query. And from different departments, from different projects, for different tasks, you will have a lot of analysts that are writing many complex queries. So all those analysts and managers have a direct access to your database and they are executing a complex analytical queries in order to generate maybe a report or something. Now, not only those guys are doing analysis on your database, you will have as well our friend, the data engineer, that is saying, you know what, I'm building a data warehouse and I would like to extract your data. So that data engineer is gonna go and write an extract query in order to extract the data from the database. And then he has a different script for the transformations in order to manipulate, filter, clean up, aggregate your data. And then a third script in order to collect the result of the transformations and load it in another database called data warehouse. A data warehouse is like special database that collect data from different sources and integrate it in one place in order to do analytics and reporting. And now at the end of this chain, you will have a data analyst and she writes as well queries in order to analyze the data in the data warehouse. Or you might have a different query in order to prepare the data before inserting it to a tool like Power BI in order to generate visualizations and reports. So we call this a data warehouse system or a business intelligence system that extract an extra copy from your data and manipulate it and transform it for analysis. Now, not only we have a data engineer and data analyst accessing your database and doing queries, we have as well our friend, the data scientist. So now our data scientist as well has a direct access to your database, so he might write like different queries in order to extract the data and as well to manipulate the data that are needed in order to develop a model and doing machine learning and AI. And now one more scenario that I see in many projects where the result of the data analyst gonna be used in another query in order to prepare the result for data visualizations, Power BI, or in order to export like an Excel list. So as you can see, we have a lot of people with different roles that want to access your database and do analysis on top of it. And that's because everyone wants to answer questions based on the data. And now if I look to this, I still think this is a simplified version on how things works in the data projects. And I can tell you in real projects, things are way more complicated than this. So now if you sit back and look to this, we will find many challenges and problems. For example, all those people are not talking to each other and each one of them are creating like their own query. But if you go and take all those queries and compare them side by side, you will find in the scripts and queries logic that is keep repeating. So the queries from the analyst or the data scientists and data engineers, they might contain a redundant logic. And of course, the issue of this, we have the same effort repeating over and over. And maybe not everyone is getting the logic implemented correctly because not all of them having the right skills in SQL. So this is a big issue in this setup. And now we have another challenge having this scenario. If you don't optimize it, you will have a performance issue everywhere. So the data warehouse or the data engineer scripts might take like 5 hours, and the query from the analyst might take like 40 minutes. And before inserting the data to reports, we might have 30 minutes, and 1 hour there, 30 minutes there, and everyone else is as well suffering from bad performance on their queries, and the performance everywhere is really bad. So if everyone is writing big complex queries, don't expect that they will have a good performance. Now to the third challenge that I observed in many projects, and that is the complexity. Now behind the original database, you might have a data model that is prepared and optimized only for one application. So you will have in the data model a lot of tables, and all those tables have different relationship between them. And of course, only the developers and the experts of this database understand the physical data model behind this database. And now if you give access to all those analysts, they will have a lot of questions, because first they have to understand the data model before writing any query. So that means a lot of data workers are keep asking our expert from this database questions. So for example, how to connect the table A with the table B, and where do I find my columns, what this table means. I'm getting bad result in my query because your data is really corrupt. So the developers of the database will get a lot of questions from the analyst, and they have to explain over and over their data model so that the users are able to write those complex queries. So that means all those users are stressing the database team by many questions, and as well the users are writing very complex queries. So the complexity is a really big challenge. Now as well, by looking to this picture, you will find a lot of arrows from those queries to the database, and this might cause a lot of database stress. So keep executing repeatedly a big complex queries gonna makes really big stress for the database, and it's gonna bring the database down. And the last challenge of this picture is that the data security. So if you leave it like this by giving the users a direct access to your database tables, you might have a problem, because it might be okay for like some data engineers and so on, but you don't want to give for each data analyst a full access to the database tables. So you have to protect your tables, the columns, the rows, everything. So you cannot leave it like this, where everyone having a direct access to the physical database tables. Now enough talking about challenges, problems and issues, let's be solution oriented. So what are the solutions of those issues? Of course, there are many solutions, but we're gonna focus now on 5 techniques. We can go and use subqueries or CTEs, common table expressions. We can introduce views to our database or temporary tables, or we can go and use the technique of the CTAS, create table as select. So this is exactly why we have to understand those 5 techniques in order to solve all those issues that we might face in our data projects. Alright friends, so now after we understood the importance of those 5 techniques, let's take a quick and simplified look to the database architecture, because I want you to understand what happens behind the scenes and how the database execute the queries from these 5 techniques. So by understanding this architecture, you will understand how things works. So let's go. For each story, there are 2 sides. We have the server side and the client side. In the client side, it's like, for example, you are writing an SQL query for a specific purpose. Now in the server side, we have many things. So the server is where the database lives, and it has many components like the database engine. The database engine is the brain of the database that handles different operations like storing, retrieving, and managing data in the database. So each time you execute a query, the database engine gonna take care of it. And now in the database, we have very important component, that is the storage. And the 2 main types of storage in a database are disk storage and cache. The disk storage is like a long-term memory where the data is stored permanently. So it's like the disk at your PC, it stores the data permanently even if you turn off the system. And one important feature of the disk is that it can store a lot of data, but the disadvantage of the disk storage is that it is slow. So it is slow to write and to read. Now in the other hand, we have the cache. It is a short-term memory where the data is stored temporary. It's like the RAMs at your PC. It holds the most frequently used data, so the database can access it quickly in order to retrieve data. And the big advantage of the cache is that it is fast. So it is very fast for the database to retrieve data from the cache compared to the disk. But the disadvantage of the cache, the data is stored there only for short period. So it's like trade-off between the speed and how much data you can store and how long. Now let's talk about the disk storage. This is very important in databases. There are typically three types of storage areas there. We have the user data, the system catalog, and the temporary data. And each storage type has a different purpose. So what is user data storage? It is the main content of the database. So it stores the actual data, all the informations that are relevant for the users. So it stores there all the important data that the users cares about. So this is the storage where the users are interacting all the time. So where do we find the user data? If you go to our database, SalesDB, and then you go to the tables, now we find all these tables that we are already used, the customers, employees, orders, and so on. Those tables are the user data. So now if I go and say select from sales orders, and all those informations that we are seeing now are the user's data. So this is what we users actually care about. All other stuff that we see inside databases as a user, we don't care about it. We care only about our data. But in the database, we don't have only the user data, we have many other informations. So this is what we mean with the user data storage. Now, what is system catalog? This is the internal storage for the database for its own information. So it's like a blueprint that keeps tracking everything about the database itself. So that means the main purpose of the system catalog is that it holds the metadata informations about the database. So what is a metadata? Metadata is data about data. Now let's understand what this means. What we have done so far is that we have created a table called customers, and we have defined inside it like multiple columns like the customer ID, first name, last name, and then we have inserted our data inside this table. So we have inserted 5 customers. So those informations are my data. I have created those informations and stored it inside the database. That's why we call it the user data. So nothing so far is new. So now what happens behind the scenes is that the database server will not only store the user data that you have provided, but also it's gonna go and store a different type of data inside the database. And this data is the metadata. So the database server gonna store the metadata of the customers table, and it's gonna look like this. There is like a table name, there is a column names, and those are the column names that you have defined inside your database, and those are the column names that you have defined as you are creating the table customers. And it's gonna store as well additional informations like which data type, like the customer ID is int and the last name is varchart, and many other informations like the length of the column and whether the column is nullable or not. So as you can see, in the metadata we are having a description, a data about the structure of the customers. And in the metadata we can find a lot of informations about not only the tables and columns, but as well about the schemas and the database. So you can find a full catalog about the structure of your database. Basic table, the customers table, it contains data about the actual data. So it stores data about the customers, but the metadata of the customers table contains data about data. So in the databases, each table that you are using in order to store your data has a table twin that describes the structure of your data. So this is what we mean with a system catalog or a metadata. And now you might ask where I can find all those system catalog and metadata inside our client here. Well, you cannot navigate through those informations in the Object Explorer like we used to do for the user data, but you can find those informations in a special hidden schema called the information schema. The information schema in SQL Server is a system-defined schema that contains a set of built-in views that help us to find information about our database, like tables, columns, and other objects. So let's go and explore it. We're gonna go and say select star from information schema, and then let's have a dot, and now we get from SQL a list of all views that are available in order to browse the metadata of our database. So for example, you can see here tables, you can see informations about the views and as well about the columns. So let's go and select the columns and let's go and execute it. And now in the output, we can find informations about the schema, about the table names, like for example here the customers. Let me just go and select this table, and then we find all the columns inside this table, how they are sorted. So we have here the order of each column and as well the data type and the size of each column and many other stuff. So as you can see, we got here all the informations, all the metadata of each table and as well for each column inside the table. So with that, you can check which tables does exist in your database. For example, I find here like something called test2. So maybe I was trying to test something. I can go now and clean up stuff, right? And this is exactly why the database maintains such a catalog. It helps the database to quickly find the structure of each table and of each column. And it helps me as well as a user to browse the catalog of the database. So for example, I can go over here and say, okay, let's get a distinct table name. So with that, I will get a list of everything that I have inside the database. So we have the customers, employees, and some tests that I have done. So metadata are awesome. Now we come to the third storage, the temporary data storage. It is a temporary space used by the database for short-term tasks like processing a query or sorting data. And once these tasks are done, what's gonna happen? The database gonna go and clean up the storage. And now, of course, the question is where we can find these temporary tables that is using the temporary storage in the disk. Well, actually, if you go to the Object Explorer, you will not find it inside our database SalesDB, but you will find it inside the system databases. Now, since we are working locally, we have the full access to everything inside the SQL server. But in real projects, if you are just a user or let's say a developer, you will not have access to the system databases, only for the database administrators. But now we are working on the local copy, so let's go to the system database. And here you have a special database from the SQL server called tempdb. And if you go inside it, we will find here tables and temporary tables. So this is exactly where you can find all the temporary tables that you are generating. Now, currently we didn't create any temporary tables, that's why it's empty. But once we start creating temporary tables, you will find those tables underneath this folder. We will learn about the temporary tables in the next sections. So these are the main component of the database architecture. So now let's have an example. Now we have a table called orders that is stored inside the user storage, and the metadata of this table is stored in the catalog. So now let's say that you are at the client side and you write a simple select query in order to select the data of the orders. So now that query is sent to the server in order to be executed, and the database engine gonna take the query in order to process it. So first, the database engine gonna check whether we have the data in the cache, because if the data is stored in the cache, then things gonna be really fast and the database engine can solve the task quickly. But in this scenario, we don't have the orders informations in the cache. That's why the database engine gonna say, okay, it's not in the cache, let's check the disk. So it will find the orders information in the disk and the query gonna be executed. Then the result of this query gonna be sent back to the client side, where at the end, in return, you will see in the output the result of the table orders. So this is how the SQL database execute a very simple select query. Alright, so with that we have covered why we need these 5 techniques, and we have as well good understanding of the database architecture. Now next we're gonna deep dive into each technique and we will start with the subqueries. If you like this video and you want me to create more content like this, I'm gonna really appreciate it if you support the channel by subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. All those stuff gonna help the channel with the YouTube algorithm, and as well my content gonna reach the others. So thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye.